Today, Bitcoin holds steady below $95,000. The DOJ requests a 20-year sentence for former Celsius CEO Alex Mashinsky, and Maurice of crypto payments firm Yellow Card discusses regulatory developments around stablecoins in the U.S. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Talia Kaplan. Crypto markets in the green this morning. As of noon Eastern, Bitcoin climbed 1%, trading under the $95,000 level. Ether rose 3%, more than $1,800, and Solana traded at $148. Okay, let's talk about the top stories. Fintech bank SoFi plans to bring back crypto investing. CEO Anthony Noto told CNBC the plan comes after a, quote, fundamental shift in the regulatory landscape under the Trump administration. In late 2023, the fintech firm was forced to drop crypto investing as part of becoming a regulated bank. Noto told CNBC that new guidance from the acting head of the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency led SoFi to plan an aggressive return to crypto. Speaking on CNBC's Squawk Box this morning, Noto stressed that the regulatory environment for crypto is evolving, which will allow his company to offer crypto coins in the firm's Invest product. He says he hopes to make that happen within the next 6 months. Noto also said SoFi plans to enter crypto and blockchain activities in a much broader and more significant way.
We want to be able to offer blockchain products and crypto products across every area that we're currently in. So across lending, across paying, across investing, and as well as protecting. We think it's a technology more than anything else, and we can use it to allow people to pay easier at lower cost, to pay faster, and over time be able to capture some of the opportunity by providing infrastructure services to third parties via our technology platform. So it really will cut across every element of our business.
Next, Donald Trump Jr. co-founded a new private members club that includes crypto executives. Sources tell CNBC that the club, called Executive Branch, kicked off with a launch party on Saturday. Attendees included at least a half dozen members of the Trump administration, including SEC Chair Paul Atkins, along with CEOs, tech founders, and policy experts. On the crypto side, sources also tell CNBC that crypto investors Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss are founding members, along with White House crypto czar David Sachs. The club, which costs $500,000 to join, was launched with the help of Omid Malik and Christopher Buskirk of 1789 Capital, as well as Alex and Zach Witkoff, the sons of billionaire real estate investor and friend of President Trump, Steve Witkoff. The news comes as Democrats on Capitol Hill continue to raise concerns tied to the Trump family's crypto ventures. On Friday, Senators Elizabeth Warren and Adam Schiff sent a letter to the U.S. Office of Government Ethics asking for an inquiry after Trump's official meme coin surged on the heels of an announcement that top holders of the token could have dinner with the president. Last, the Department of Justice is seeking a 20-year prison sentence for former Celsius CEO Alex Mashinsky. In a filing submitted yesterday, the DOJ argued Mashinsky's guilty plea and facts presented before the court make clear that his actions were not the product of negligence. Rather, quote, they were the result of deliberate, calculated decisions to lie, deceive, and steal in pursuit of personal fortune. Mashinsky was arrested back in 2023 in connection to the failure of his crypto platform Celsius, which filed for bankruptcy a year earlier. He pleaded guilty this past December to committing commodities and securities fraud. His sentencing is scheduled for May 8th. All right, for our main story, Crypto World's Tanea McKeel spoke with Maurice, co-founder and CEO of the crypto payments firm Yellow Card. The company describes itself as the largest licensed on and off ramp for stablecoins in Africa. Maurice breaks down the inspiration behind the company and how stablecoin regulation in the U.S. affects his business.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on Crypto World on set today. I'm so excited to hear about Yellow Card because, like I was saying off camera, I've been covering crypto for a while, and what you're doing at Yellow Card really seems like kind of the holy grail in one sense of what we can do with this technology. Take it from the beginning. What was the problem that you were trying to solve?
Yeah, I think the big thing that really made this clear to us was one day I was at a Wells Fargo, met this Nigerian man who was sending $200 to his family, and the bank charged him $90 to send $200, and I thought, that's crazy, right? So I talked to the guy, hey, have you heard of Bitcoin? It's free, it's instant, it's fun, all this great stuff. And, went home and just started thinking, what would this guy's mom do with $200 in Bitcoin? You can't buy food with that, you can't pay rent with that. And to your point, everybody in this industry loves to talk about all the problems that we solve, right? I hear all the time about how we're revolutionizing finance and changing the way that payments work. But then all you actually see are, NFTs of monkeys and meme coins and dog and cat coin and all of that. And so I think there was a big juxtaposition between sort of what the industry was saying and what was actually going on. And I just became obsessed with that problem. How does a real person with a real problem actually utilize this technology? And so that's what we set out to build, right? And essentially, what we developed is the technology for stablecoins to actually be used as an alternative to SWIFT and to correspondent banking, starting in countries where, those systems don't work today.
So how did we get from Bitcoin to now stablecoins? You've built this business around stablecoins. When did you realize that it had to be around stablecoins versus Bitcoin? What made you realize that?
Yeah, so look, I love Bitcoin. I will be the first to say that. When we started off, we were only doing Bitcoin, right? We launched in June 2019. So, stablecoins were around, but they weren't certainly what they are today, right? And it wasn't until 2021 that we actually listed our first stablecoin, which was USDT. And within about a day of listing it, about 30% of our volume moved over to stablecoins. Within a few months, 99% of our volume moved over to stablecoins. Wow. And it just, completely took off from there. And so I think it became quite clear very quickly after, offering this as an option that, people are really just interested in the dollar. Right, they're interested in payments. They're interested in moving their money and better ways of being able to move money around the world, rather than speculating on Bitcoin or any of the other assets.
So tell me about the product itself. Who is using it and why, and how do you make money?
Corporates. We work with large corporates all over the world, right? All over emerging markets, Africa, other parts of the emerging world, and then companies across US, Europe, Asia, et cetera, that do business on the continent in emerging markets that need help with payments. We deal with large companies that have a lot of money in these countries, a lot of local currency that they're not able to move, right? They're not able to properly interact with the international financial system for a number of reasons, either lack of liquidity on the US dollar or just no connectivity to SWIFT, right, through local banking networks. Right. And so we work with these companies on essentially three things: international payments, treasury management, and just access to dollars. Right. At the end of the day, what I like to tell people is that pretty much all the companies that we work with, what they have in common is none of them really care about stablecoins. None of them care about blockchain. None of them care about the technology. They just have very practical, real-world problems that they need solved. And this is the best way to do it. This is the best technology and the first technology that truly solves the problem, as opposed to just sort of moving the problem around on the back end.
Give me a sense of how much reach you have. So your market is Africa. How much reach do you have, and how do you quantify that?
Yeah, so we work predominantly in Africa and then across various parts of the emerging world. We work with about 30,000 businesses of all shapes and sizes, right? So everything from large banks on the continent down to a guy that sells shoes on the side of the road that he's importing from China, and everybody in between. We do a lot of work with PayPal and Coinbase and other major institutions that want to do business in some of the fastest growing GDPs, middle class, consumer class in the world, but don't want to deal with the regulation, the licensing, compliance, banks that don't have online banking, right? Currencies that are inflating rapidly. And so we do a lot of work with these large corporates and some of the big names in remittance and payments and banking on just making it a lot easier for them to be able to interact with these countries, all from a US dollar stablecoin base.
Stablecoins, obviously a hot topic in this country. We are, hopefully going to be seeing the first official crypto legislation that's focused on stablecoins. One of the main issuers of USD-backed stablecoins filing to go public again. What do these conversations and these milestones here in the US mean globally and for your business specifically?
Yeah, it's been great. I think look, the saying, I know it's on the continent. I think other people say it as well, is when the U.S. sneezes, the world catches a cold, right? And so, when you have an administration that is pushing the technology, and when you have more openness from a legislative perspective in the U.S. on this technology, you get a lot more interest from countries and governments all over the world. And so, I mean, we've talked to governments just within the past couple of months that are, essentially asking, hey, what am I missing? What have I not been understanding about this technology that this new administration in the U.S. is so interested in it and is pushing it and has it as such a top priority. And so there's just a lot more interest around the world, especially in emerging markets, in, how do we adopt this technology? How do we embrace it? How do we get companies building here, setting up here, and bring in the innovation, bring in the jobs, bring in the money that this industry is bringing to the U.S. and to other countries around the world.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today. We'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll see you then.